Hello, everybody. This is Sunday, and I am here for our weekly chat about a hot topic associated with your travel business. And so I'm super excited to be here today. Normally it's Sade, but she is getting ready to go out of town. So I thought I would come and talk to you all about discovery calls and why you need to have them in your travel business. But before we get started, let me introduce myself to you. If you do not know who I am, my name is Sunday Gardner. I am a business coach focused on launching and marketing successful and profitable travel businesses. And together, Sade and I have come together to create Compass Travel Tech, which is all about simplifying the way that you do your travel business through automation and tools. And so in this week's topic, we're going to be talking about discovery calls and why it's so important to have them in your travel business. Because if you're anything like me, you're a for-profit business and most of you are high ticket sales. And so we're going to talk about what a discovery call is, how you include it in your business process, and then also how you use Compass Travel Tech to help leverage the successful scheduling of discovery calls, execution, and follow-up using the tools. So let's get started. We're going to jump in. So if you are not using discovery calls as a part of your process, let's first start with what are they and why do you need one? Discovery call is simply, I remember when I first learned about discovery calls, I was like, well, is it an opportunity for me to educate people, train people, strategize about things? And really, the reason why I don't use any other fancy term to explain what a discovery call is because that's exactly what it is. It's your chance to discover all that you can about your client in a way that allows you to position your services as the solution for their needs, and then ultimately let them know how you do business and how you are going to operate and finish the transaction. So it's a very important part of the process. Prior to me doing discovery calls, this is really how it went in my business. Someone would say, I want to go out of town. And I'd be like, okay, I'd get a pen, I'd grab a pen and a piece of paper, and I'd start feverishly writing down their requirements, trying to think about all the things that I wanted to say or ask them so that I could go off and then do a quote. Early in my travel business, I knew that I wanted to sell travel at a price point that was about between $3,000 to $5,000. I wanted my trips to be at that price point. And what I knew about sales at that time is that it didn't, when I followed this approach of just sort of taking down information, not really giving myself the opportunity to think about what it was that they wanted, ask the right questions, then come back in a position of authority, knowledge, and what have you, I wasn't able to close those sales. And that's literally what we do in our travel business is we get a opportunity to sell. If you are doing high ticket travel sales, we get one opportunity in this process to take in their requirements, assess them, and then give them a pitch on why they should go with you as opposed to doing it themselves or going to another travel advisor. And so when I accepted that this is really a sales process, I was like, well, what would I normally do when I'm trying to sell something? I wouldn't try and sell off the cuff. I wouldn't try to sell impromptu. In my previous life, I would gather requirements. I would sit and I would prepare for a conversation with the client. And then I would get everything so that I could make sure that I gave them the best information and positioned myself the very best that I could in their eyes, and then also meeting their requirements. And so it's really no different. So for me, I had to learn the hard way that a discovery call is really an opportunity for you to sort of take a breath learn about your client and do a couple of things. So in today's conversation, we're going to talk about the couple of things that you need to make sure that you do in your discovery call. And then we're going to talk about how we can do that, how we can utilize Compass Travel Tech to help facilitate this process. So let's first talk about the reason why we want to do discovery calls. First, there's really three main reasons to do a discovery call. The first is to qualify your client. How many of you out there, if you watch this, have had those clients that we refer to as tire kickers? They just say, oh, I'd like you to go give me a quote for Aruba. I was just talking to a client, she's getting ready to do a quote for Aruba, right? I want to go to Africa. I want to go to Japan or wherever the country is. And they really are looking for you to do a quote only so that you can do the work, but not really utilize your services. I'm sure many of you all have had that in your travel business. And so the first thing that we want to use discovery call is to qualify the person to determine if they're even an ideal client for you. And so that means that you've got to have some sort of qualification standards, right? You've got to be able to define what makes somebody a great client for you. Is it the price point? Is it the type of travel that they want to do and that you're interested in? What is the qualification? So you use the discovery call and the discovery call process as a way to qualify. And so the second reason to do a discovery call is to ascertain somebody's willingness to pay. Are they willing to pay your design fee if you're charging a planning or design fee, and their willingness to pay for the deposit and pay for said trip, right? So we want to understand through that discovery process if they're willing to put down the money right now for the deposit, or are they just feeling things out? And don't get me wrong, it's okay for people to just be feeling things out, but I'm not going to do an extensive design work for somebody who's not in the decision-making process, right? So the second reason to do to have a discovery call process is to ensure that they have the willingness to pay your design fee and then also pay the money to get started on the actual booking of the trip. And then the third thing and reason that you want to do have a discovery process is to ensure that they have the ability to pay, right? So there are a lot of people that I've worked with that have the desire to go on a said trip, but they don't have the ability to put down the $500 deposit right now, right? They don't have the ability to pay $3,000. They want really a smaller trip, right? So all of this discovery and knowledge that I gather through this process allows me as the travel advisor to not waste my time on clients that are either not in a position financially to pay, or are not my ideal client, or they don't have the willingness to pay for my design services. All of that saves me time and ultimately saves me money and wasted effort, loss of potential business with working with clients that really are not a fit. So the process is really instrumental in the way that we run our business, and I encourage you to do the same. So now that we know why we want to do and what the purpose of a discovery call is, really what's the process that we follow to execute it. So now, I'm going to tell you that discovery calls are usually used in our business for fit. So individual travel requests, or people who are group leaders and Pied Pipers, so to speak, and they want me or want to procure our agency services to create a group trip for them or a customized trip. I normally don't do discovery calls for group trips that I plan because I'm the one who's actually doing the discovery. I already know what I want. I already know what exactly I want to design. So the people that a discovery call process is for is usually for custom fits or for group leaders who want us to design a group trip for them. So the process simply is we always take in a formal request. They need to submit a formal request through a form that we use. And then right after they take the request, we have them sign up for a discovery call. Between the request submission and the actual call, we utilize that time to do some preliminary discovery about their request so that when we come to that call, we're very much prepared. I have an idea of where they want to go. I have my questions already identified and lined up to ask the clients inside of the call. We conduct the call for the purposes of clarifying their submission. We also are qualifying them, determining their willingness to pay, their ability to pay. So it is a numbers conversation. I'm validating their budget and making sure that their requirements are in line with the budget that they've set. If they haven't given me a budget, I'm having that conversation with them on the call. So once we conduct the call, from there, we follow up. At that time, we actually schedule a follow-up call, because if they decide to proceed and authorize us proceeding, meaning they're willing to pay our design fee, we then move to the next step, which is scheduling the follow-up. We do the research, then we come up, conduct the follow-up, we close the deal, and then we book the travel. So that's the process that we follow. And then from there, it's all gravy. So at that time, I don't close every deal. I don't proceed to every next step, because maybe they disqualify themselves by some reason. One of the common reasons that people disqualify themselves is that they're not ready to book now. They're not ready to book the trip or put a deposit down within 3 to 5 days. That's the number one reason why someone will disqualify themselves in our process. The number two reason that they'll disqualify themselves is that they're not willing to pay the design fee. They really want to do a done for you service, which that call, once I discover that, I sort of let them go. I may give them some options to book through links that I have, which is also a viable way to proceed, sort of downsell from doing a custom itinerary build to a do it yourself, but I still would get the affiliate or commission based on the way that I give them the links there. And then the third major reason that people disqualify themselves is their price point isn't the price point that I normally sell. And then that would lend me to an alternative route. All right, so that's the process. So we've talked about how and what we do. And then the next thing is, what's the process? So let's now talk about how we can use Compass to actually facilitate doing this, right? There are three things that Compass Travel Tech will help you when it comes to the discovery call process. It'll automate the way that you book your calls, meaning that you don't have to actually get on the phone with somebody to book the discovery call. You can include in the way that you set up your travel request funnel, you can have them select their appointment right away, right at the time that they're actually submitting. So the very next step is they book a call. That's one way. The number two way that Compass Travel Tech helps you is that we automate the reminders, right? And the follow-up sequences. So you ever had people who will schedule calls and they say, oh, I forgot about the call. I didn't remember that the call was supposed to happen a week from now or 2 weeks from now or whatever the time frame is. And so Compass Travel Tech and the way that we've built automation for you, once somebody books a discovery call, it automatically sends them into a reminder sequence that they can automatically get emails to remind them about the call, at different intervals, and then also SMS text. If you have SMS set up, it'll automatically send SMS messages to them to let them know and remind them about the call. And then the third thing that Compass Travel Tech will help you do is it'll actually help you with the follow-up. So let's say somebody doesn't proceed to the next step. Maybe they've disqualified themselves. You can set them into an email automation that continues to nurture them and continues to keep the relationship going, so to speak. If you do a newsletter, you can send a newsletter to them, but it actually adds, you can continue the conversation. And so what I'd like to do now is demonstrate to you sort of our request process, and then let you see how the calendar function that we have inside of Compass works, so that you can actually it's so funny, like I didn't get this set up before, and I got to remember how to do that. I don't know that I can do this on the fly. I may have to do this present. Yeah, there we go. I can do it. I feel good. Like, you gotta love when technology is always. I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure I did that properly. All right, perfect. I'm going to share that. All right, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you our request funnel. And inside of that funnel, what we've done is we've created the ability for you to actually select somebody's. So this is just, when you sign up for the system, first thing that we do is we allow you to go to a page that allows you to talk about your request process. You'll get a request, travel request process. We'll fill this out. And then the very next thing that they'll be able to do is go into they'll be able to fill in their information, and then once you fill in the information, I'm going to click submit. And then what happens is right after the submission, didn't pick the year, right after the submission, make sure I filled out everything. Doesn't like my phone number. It knows that it's a fake phone number. I love that. I love that we've got that validation so that it knows that it's not a correct phone number. So once we hit submit, the very next thing that happens is the discovery call is booked, that the person can book the discovery call. This saves you so much time from actually having to have the person coordinate a schedule. You're able to set your availability, you schedule the appointment, and they schedule that for the 20th. They give some additional information. They confirm that and then they schedule the call. This right here, this part allows you to automate the way that you get your booked calls. What's also happening behind the scenes is that I want to make sure, hopefully I am sharing my screen. I don't think I was actually sharing that. Make sure that, yeah, I think it was sharing. So hopefully it was sharing. So what this allows is that it allows you to actually automate the way that your discovery calls are booked. You're allowed to set your availability. This discovery call gets booked. You don't have to actually be there to schedule the calls. That can happen while you're, at your full-time job, and calls can show up on your calendar based on availability. What's also happening behind the scenes is, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. What's also happening behind the scenes is the ability to get reminders. So what's going to happen is in my inbox, I'm going to get an email that says that the discovery call has been booked. The person's going to get an email to let them know that the discovery call has been built. And then there's going to be reminders all the way up to, I think we've got the reminders set all the way up until like 5 minutes before the call. This is going to help improve your actual show up rate, because it's one thing to have a process, but then if no one's showing up, that doesn't do you any good. So you want not only to book the call, but you want to have show ups, and you want to be able to follow up with them to make sure that they either, if they proceed with your next step, that you have a way to communicate and keep that line of communication. If they don't proceed, that you're still keeping that lines of communication, because maybe it's just not a right time right now. Maybe maybe this is not the right time. Maybe they don't have the money for the deposit, but doesn't mean that you don't want to ever talk to them again. You want to still follow up, and now that they become a part of your client list. Listen, We are super excited to be here providing you solutions. Discovery Call is one of many workflows that you need to have in your travel business. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to put a post inside of this video and we'll get right back to you. If you are watching this, do not forget to like and subscribe to this video. But that's all that we've got for discovery calls and what you need to know about the discovery call process. And we will see you next week with a new topic relative to your travel business. Talk to you soon.